Welcome to another fine edition of It's a Sports Show. As always, the man with the plan, Scott Cray. And sorry to say, yes, we're still downgraded to Dolphin Paul at this point. How do you like them apples?
Right off the bat,
hey,
the
man,
with the plan
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I would want no one else but you here. Well, that and maybe Pamela Anderson, but I don't know.
I'm the next best thing.
I don't know who could talk sports better than you.
Are you pretty confident? The man with the plan. Maybe you took a little juice. You take anything?
Feeling a little, feisty. I took a little clear, took a little cream.
Barry Bonds clearance items?
The only cream I take is icy hot after like a softball game because I'm all beat up. You know what I mean?
I like you, but I don't really want to know what personal creams that you take.
Let's not get into that.
Let's not get into
We've got a lot
creams.
to talk about. The World Baseball Classic has been wrapped up. Sox making some trade finally. And, of course, we got to try to squeeze in some Soriano, some T.O. It's like a show about individuals for the most part. But first, it's bracketology time. The NCAA tournament is off to its Sweet 16. We are taping on Tuesday evening and do not know what's going to happen on Thursday when this fires up again. But, hey, let's make ourselves look like geniuses. What do you think so far about all this madness?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting. I think I got a few observations. Number one, there's been a lot of upsets. Mm-hmm. Number two, the NCAA selection committee is probably smiling because the mid-majors that they took are playing pretty well. So
Absolutely.
It's not like there hasn't been a lot of flukes. And a lot of people have been talking about parity in this tournament. And I think it's true. I think, we had some close calls in the first round. Yep. Albany almost beat Connecticut. Boston College struggled a little bit with Pacific. So I just think there's a lot of parity, and as we saw, some terrific games, terrific upsets.
Right.
We can go real quickly.
Well, if you didn't follow it along,
by region,
game by game, and you just kind of woke up the next morning and looked at, who moved on, there might have not have been, there were definitely some surprises, but there were some that were not surprises. But if you took the time to look at some of these scores and maybe even some of the highlights, you saw that some of these teams that expected to be in it and are barely got in it for the most part. We're talking 1-2 point, wins at the most part, and they should have beat up.
That happens a lot, though, especially the first round. The team will struggle, but then they'll come true to form. Like Boston College, local team right now, is playing pretty solid.
Is it like first round jitters? Is that why they can barely squeeze through at this point?
That could be.
I would think the jitters get worse as you progress because there's more pressure on.
Well, but if you're playing a 16 seed, maybe you're kind of lackadaisical a little bit, and the 16 seed's excited to be there.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there's never really been a 16 beating a 1.
Right.
So still waiting for that to happen. I thought that
Yep.
BC, they were on the ropes there for a while, but sometimes these guys don't play for a while. It takes a game or two to get in tune. So.
Right.
But I mean, I still got my Final Four.
We all do actually.
I'm ahead on the It's a Sports Show.
Yeah, take a look at this.
So far.
Out of the four of us, was it 4 or 5? Jen, Dolphin Paul, Frenchie, me. I guess Mitch didn't do his bracketology. Is that the deal? He was in New York. So Jen and I have 8 teams left that we chose. So that's good. We're batting 50% there. I'm sorry, Frenchie and I. Jen has 9 teams left. Not bad for a chick.
Wow.
I'm sure she's reacting right now.
Yeah,
and
it
then
goes true to form. Every show you just alienate somebody in our population.
Hey,
I'm not going to go back to a few shows ago.
I could have said not bad for a blonde chick,
whether it's
but I didn't go that
sexual
far.
preference, color of skin, and now it's gender.
And then DP sitting on the side of me with 11 out of 16 making it. Not bad for a Dolphin lover.
That's not bad for a Dolphin fan. That's right.
Not bad for a Dolphin fan. So I think we're all doing fairly well, but, it's still too early to tell. So anyway.
Well, let's start off with the Atlanta region, which is Duke is the number 1 seed there. I, of course, got Duke going to the Final Four. They're in a pretty good game with LSU.
Who doesn't have Duke going to the Final Four?
Well, it's true. Who
doesn't have Duke going to the championship
There's a lot of chalk in this tournament. And by chalk, I mean favorites for those who aren't familiar with gambling terms. But Duke faces off against LSU. West Virginia, who beat Southern Illinois and then beat Northwestern State, who beat Iowa in a miraculous win right at the end. That's one of the big upsets.
Absolutely.
So West Virginia is playing Texas, who, I'll tell you, they probably got the best starting 5 in the country. They're not very deep on the bench. And the reason I'm singling out Texas is because I got a friend of mine, Matt Fitzgerald, who is a huge Texas fan. And we have a standing bet whoever wins the championship first, Texas or the Dolphins, has
really?
to take the other guy and a couple of friends to the Capitol Grill. So,
Boy, you guys might be arriving in canes by the time that happens. You might be eating steak 6 feet
diapers.
under.
I might
if
be
you know
in
what
the
I mean.
pants. But listen, well, Texas got a good team, and the more they move on, I have them. I'll tell you, Texas and West Virginia, excellent game, excellent matchup right there.
Yeah.
West Virginia can shoot lights out with the threes. Texas, of course, with the big starting 5. I get Texas moving on to face Duke, but that's a good matchup to watch there.
Moving on, I guess you want to move over to the Washington division?
The Washington bracket.
Yeah, I mean, again, same thing. We got Duke on one side, you got Connecticut on the other.
Who had an easy road to begin with. However,
Yeah.
kudos to Albany, who gave him a pretty tough matchup their first game.
Yep.
Albany, I mean, they didn't take him to the wire, but, the game was pretty close towards the end there.
Right.
In Connecticut, of course, found a way to win and then went on to beat Kentucky.
Yeah, went on to beat Kentucky. Washington, that 5 seed where everybody thinks the 5-12 there's going to be some sort of upset there. Not the case there. Washington took care of Utah State and then moved on to beat Illinois, the number 4 seed.
Yep.
So, in
Connecticut
essence,
and Washington, a 1 versus 5 there.
That should be good, but I think you're still going to see, very typical Connecticut doing its thing and getting in. Then you have, this was something else, George Mason beating the 3 seed, North Carolina, after beating up, first they beat up Michigan State.
Number 6 seed,
a
right?
good 6 seed.
It was a pretty good team, absolutely.
And then they went on to beat North Carolina, who had an easy win in the first round. That was unbelievable right there to see that happen.
Not only does George B. Mason sell a ton of products,
How do you like them apples?
they're not bad in basketball either.
Not bad. So
Wow.
you got George Mason moving on, a number 11 seed. You're not talking double digits most of the time by the time you get into the Sweet 16.
North Carolina, Roy Williams, who was a little bit flawed but very hot at the end.
Right. 5-point win there.
Still a number 3 seed.
Wichita State beating Seton Hall.
I had that.
Tennessee, of course, beating Winthrop. No shocker there. And then Wichita State beating the number 2 seed. Maybe one of the biggest upsets in this entire bracket, in my opinion.
Maybe, but I have Tennessee highlighted for one reason. Because Tennessee was one of the teams that most people talked about being a little bit overrated.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have been a number 2 seed.
Obviously.
And they just got by Winthrop.
Yeah,
And got
2-point
beat
win
by
there.
Wichita State. So
Right.
they're a little bit fraudulent. I mean, that was proved out. But now you got Washington State and George Mason, which is unbelievable.
You have a 7 seed playing an 11 seed, and you don't see that every day. And you know what? This should turn out to be a good matchup. It's the equivalent of like a 3-5 or a 3-4 or a 2-4 or whatever the case might be.
And one of those guys is going to get, obviously, to the Final 8, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. So Connecticut, Washington, then George Mason, Wichita. And then why don't you go ahead and move on to the next bracket?
Well, the Minneapolis region, we have Villanova, of course.
Yeah.
The number 1 seed. They moved on and beat Monmouth and then beat Arizona.
Why did they only score 58 points against Monmouth? That's what I want to know.
Again, it's one of those things where you just, the first round.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, I don't know if we'll be able to explain that, but maybe they just played down to the competition. Now, Boston College had a little bit of a struggle against Pacific.
Yeah.
The game went into OT.
Double OT.
Double OT, Boston College. Pacific had a chance to win this game. Down the stretch, they just broke apart. It looked like BC was going to be headed out for an early exit, much to Al Skinner's dismay, and he was going to get buried in the media, I'll tell you that.
Right.
But then they bounced back strong against Montana, so now BC and Villanova, great matchup. Another excellent matchup.
You know what, though? I see BC taking care of business here. Villanova just, for a 1 seed, has not impressed me. 58 points against Monmouth is ridiculous. And then they only beat Arizona, an 8 seed, by 4. You should be able to take care of business
Boston
a little
College
better
playing
than that.
real well right now. 2 Big East teams.
I'm liking BC.
This is a good matchup.
Yep.
Excellent matchup. Moving down, we have Florida, one of my Final 4 teams, who beat South Alabama and then Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Yep.
Now, Florida's been one of those teams, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, I wouldn't be surprised to see them lose the first game or move on to the Final 4. They're kind of, Billy Donovan, he's been kind of inconsistent in the NCAA.
See what kind of day they show up on, basically.
Right, but Georgetown beat Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
And they beat another team who many people thought should have been rated that high, Ohio State.
Yep.
That got proven out. So Villanova, Boston College, Florida, and Georgetown, another couple of great games. I'll tell you, this is shaping up nicely.
In some instances.
In the Minneapolis bracket.
Okay, Oakland bracket. We all know Memphis doing what they're supposed to do.
John
They beat up
Calipari.
Oral Roberts, and then they beat up Bucknell, who had beat Arkansas previously. So Memphis is moving on. And then you have Pittsburgh. This is interesting. There's your 5-12. You know, they beat up Kent State. So the 5-12 was not, that big theory. It was proven wrong this time. Bradley, the 13 seed, beats Kansas, the 4 seed. Now, Kansas was not a team that I heard people saying they were overrated.
Right.
So that was something else. And then beat Pittsburgh, the 5 seed, to move on. Bradley is going to be playing Memphis.
Bradley, that's one of the Cinderellas so far. And it'd be interesting to see how that game goes. I mean, obviously, people say Bradley, it's been a good ride.
Yep.
Hey, I mean, obviously, I'd favor Memphis in this game, but,
With what Bradley has done, they've overcome so much so far. So
I mean, I think this is where their road ends, but...
Indiana beating up on San Diego State, and my boys, the people I picked for the champion, Gonzaga beating up on Xavier, and then Gonzaga taking care of business with Indiana, no problem at all, 10-point win there, and throwing up 90 points, by the way.
Adam Morrison, we talked about him, one of the 2 best players in the country, the other being J.J. Redick from Duke. Adam Morrison, especially in the first game, he took the team on his shoulders. They were struggling a little bit.
Yep.
The terrific player, fun to watch. And they move on against another one of my Final Four teams.
UCLA.
UCLA, who beat Alabama.
Marquette lost to Alabama, so there's a 7 losing to a 10. Alabama moved on to lose to UCLA, who had previously beat up on Belmont. I think the Gonzaga-UCLA game, as well as probably the Villanova-BC game, are probably the most intriguing out of all of the Sweet 16 to me.
I would say, West Virginia and Texas, I think, is very intriguing.
Yeah.
Duke and LSU, I think, is some Florida, Georgetown. I think most of them, even George Mason and Wichita State, it's not a glamour matchup, but
it could still be a good matchup because they're even.
UConn and
Duke,
Washington.
LSU, though, are we really expecting LSU to put up much of a fight?
You know
here?
why? Because Duke didn't come in. They came in limping a little bit to this tournament. So I think people think they're vulnerable. That's why there's a question there. I think that's why. Getting back to that Atlanta bracket, one team that I normally don't like to gloat.
Yeah.
You know that. I'm very humble.
Yeah, you don't like to
I'm a humble
gloat.
individual.
You're humble, all right. Why don't you have a piece of humble pie while you're at it?
But Texas A&M beat Syracuse. That's a 12-5, which I called. As remember I told you? My buddy Scott Cray, Syracuse alumni. Scott Cray,
yeah.
He loves Syracuse.
Now, I assume you let Scotty know that you were going against Syracuse.
I told him they were going to be.
So he knew.
I told him they were going to be with a Big East hangover.
Did he think you were crazy?
No, not really.
Really?
But he did say, it wasn't because of the hangover, it's because they didn't box out. But they played 4 tough games in the Big East tournament. So Texas A&M moved on and then eventually lost.
That was your only 5-12 upset out of all 4 brackets for the most part.
So we're moving on, Sweet 16, and obviously we'll have a nice update next week.
Oh, yeah. We got, just as a reminder to all you sports show fans who have taken the time, the first 12, 10 minutes, however long we've been yapping for, to still watch us and who follow us regularly, we've got Jen, just so you know, has UCLA and UConn, with UConn winning it all.
Yep.
I have Gonzaga and Duke, so that should be interesting because that Gonzaga-UCLA matchup, one of us is going to get knocked out there. I got Gonzaga winning it all. Frenchie has UConn and Duke. Wow.
He's got UConn winning it all?
Paul French, wow. UConn winning it all. And then...
how could he have that? Jeez.
And then you have... you have a different bracket. What was that, UConn-Duke? Wow. Were UConn winning it all? Wow.
Chalk, baby, chalk.
Entertaining at the least. At least me and Jen went out on a limb for crying out loud.
Well, this should be an excellent
basketball. Duke, actually, she didn't take Duke, so that's interesting.
This should be an excellent basketball weekend, and we're certainly, next week's show will be even more interesting.
It gets more exciting each time.
Absolutely. We'll get down to the nitty-gritty.
Now, games are on Thursday?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All the way through Sunday? I didn't realize they were on Sunday, too. So.
I believe so.
Good. All right, let's move on.
Red Sox.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people have been waiting for us to talk Red Sox.
Bronson Arroyo, the twanga, as I call him, gone. The Red Sox deciding to lose some flexibility in their pitching and pick up pretty much a prospect, a power prospect, who, by the way, I read today, Big Papi says that this guy, Willie Mo Pena, might have more power than he does. So that's quite a compliment.
Does he love it when we call him Big Papa?
I don't think he minds.
That's a rap reference.
Pappy.
I love it when you call me Big Pappy.
Yeah, you listen to the rap, you know.
For our rap
I'm a
viewers.
little mature for that, but, you know, I won't hold you against it.
I'm just well-rounded in more ways than one.
So Bronson Arroyo going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati with a terrible pitching staff. This is a chance for Bronson to easily be a 2-3
They already say he
seed.
could be a number one. That's how bad the pitching staff is.
Easily. And then Willie Mo Pena coming to the Red Sox, a right fielder who has some pop in the bat, very young, led the league last year in strikeouts, and didn't do too well in the average game with batting only .248 over the last 3 seasons with the Reds. This is a guy that is not going to start in right field, but will probably platoon with Trot Nixon.
Well, the big thing with him, he had 51 RBIs at 20 walks, but he had 116 strikeouts.
And I joked with you off the set before we started, what's his name not play last year? Who were we talking about leading the way in strikeouts?
Foghorn?
Yeah,
Bellhorn?
Did Bellhorn not start? Did he not play last year at all? Is that why Pena got the most strikeouts?
Willie Mo had more strikeouts than Arroyo had on the mound.
I know, that's
so
pretty
he's
funny.
A strikeout machine, but his big thing is he hit 19 homers.
In 311 at-bats.
So he's got a little bit of pop in his bat, and he's very
40 home
young.
run
So I think the Red Sox are hoping in maybe 2 years they have their next big power hitter playing the outfield.
Right. I know for once you and I actually agree on this matter as it relates to overall opinion on the trade. And then a little side notes on how Arroyo really got the shaft on this deal.
Well, Arroyo was going to be sent to the bullpen, so I guess the Red Sox feel they have a little bit of flexibility. I would rather keep us some pitching. I mean, this is not a lopsided trade by any means.
No. It addresses needs for both sides.
I just think Arroyo is what it is. He won 14 games last year.
Right.
If one of these question marks, i.e. Schilling or Wells, gets hurt, I mean, they got their starting 5 or 6 set.
Yep.
You can have a guy in the bullpen that could come out of the bullpen and give you some quality starts.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan.
But at the same token, Frenchie jotted down these stats for me, our producer. Look at this postseason numbers, okay? And let's face it, we're in Red Sox Nation. We're all about the postseason. 2004, no record, 0-0 in 10 games with a 7.41 ERA. That's with 17 innings pitched. So whether it's out of the bullpen or starting, the guy did not perform in the postseason. But I do agree in that I like the flexibility of Arroyo, okay? He, for the most part, started last year. But this year was looking to go into the bullpen because there's a logjam in the rotation. When you've got guys like old man Schilling and old bitchy man Wells, it would be nice to have had Arroyo to be able to step up to that starting role and throw him in the rotation if he needed to. Now you don't have that. You're looking at Papelbon at this point. You know, if they don't make Papelbon the number 5 guy, they'll throw him in the bullpen. Right now he might be the number 5 guy, I don't know, but you lose that flexibility, and to gain the extra pop in the bat, I don't know, unless they're thinking that by the time Pena comes around the next year or two.
Well, Trot Nixon's probably going to be gone. So.
Well, what I'm also thinking is maybe Ramirez being gone. Maybe you hope it's to replace some of his numbers.
But I hope we're not going to place
Willie
Mo Pena.
You said yourself the guy hit what 19 home runs in half as many of a full season at bats.
Got to cut
that's
down.
That's a 40 home run season right there.
He said when he was in Cincy that he really worked hard in the Dominican League on his patience and so forth. If they can turn him around, cut his strikeouts, and he can be a good power hitter, then you know what? I like Arroyo. Like you said, he's versatile and everything, but I wasn't banking on Arroyo becoming a number 1 or number 2 starter in this league. I think he is what he is, a guy who can give you some quality.
But he was consistent outside of the postseason, and I like that.
Here's the other big controversy with Arroyo.
Yeah.
Back in November or so, he took, admittedly, a hometown discount.
Right.
This is one athlete who he can say really wanted to stay here. Some guys say, I'd like to stay. He emphatically said he would rather pitch. As a matter of fact, he was quoted after being traded saying that he would rather pitch out of the pen in Boston than be a starter somewhere else. I think he was very disappointed and hurt. Now, they told him, he said, I'm signing his contract, but I don't want to be signing it and then end up in Tampa or a team like that. And the Red Sox, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I'm going to paraphrase, there's no imminent deals for you, and we don't see any deals or you being traded in the foreseeable future.
And Theo now is backing off and saying, look, we understand
But
he
Theo
took
wasn't
that.
there, though.
Yeah, well.
Well,
Oh, was he? You know what I mean?
it's a perfect outer for Theo. It's like, hey.
Theo's saying, look, the Red Sox, he's not saying him because he's claiming to not be there, although we know he never left. He's saying that the Red Sox said there's still, sorry, Bronson, but there's still we cannot guarantee you won't be traded. And that's exactly what happened. All this did, in the long run, was make Arroyo more tradable. Let's not forget, folks, Bronson did this against his own agent's recommendation.
Advice, absolutely.
Okay? And now his agent's
Absolutely.
saying, hey, he's got to he's still Bronson's agent, so he's got to play it safe.
Well,
he's
not
saying,
only
look,
that, he doesn't want to ruin his future clientele. He's like,
Right.
hey, I
He's
advised
saying,
him
look,
against this trade.
we kind of saw this coming,
Yep.
which they didn't. Only the agent did, and maybe Red Sox management. Red Sox, very shady doing this, in my opinion.
This was a shady deal. It is business. I mean, I don't think the Red Sox did anything against the law. I'm not going to hold it against them. But I personally think, and it's been on the talk radio on a lot of stations, it's kind of become a heated thing. I think he was misled. That's my personal opinion. He's a big boy. He understands it. But you know what's going to happen with this? It's going to set a precedent for,
You're not going to see
future negotiations.
You are not going to see a hometown
I don't want to hear guys like
discount.
you throw anybody under the fruit
You know
tree
what? I
for not
remember
taking
these
the money.
things.
Wow.
I remember these things.
Ortiz is coming up, so now people are
Unless-
going to say, well, maybe Ortiz should take a hometown discount. Will they trade Ortiz? No, they wouldn't trade Ortiz, but now
Because he's valuable enough.
now players are going to look at this and
You
say,
know
listen,
what? In the future,
Arroyo took a hometown
Right.
discount. He wanted to stay here. His house was in Boston. They shipped him off.
if they really
Here's what
want
I
the
want,
hometown discount, they better put a no trade clause in there. You know what I mean?
which is impossible to do.
Well,
So I think that sets a precedent. So
I agree with you.
Unfortunately, Arroyo's gone. Like I said, I don't think it's a season breaker or anything like that. But
Well, at any rate, they got
I'd rather have
Pena.
the pitching. Give me pitching or give me death.
Still got Pena for a little less money, I believe, and I'm sure French will correct me on that. I don't have those number
absolutely.
stats here, but yeah, they got Pena for less money.
1.2 billion to 2 billion.
$2 billion.
He got $1.2 billion, $1.25 million contract for 2006.
Pena?
And he can't become a free agent until after 2008.
Right. So they got him for a few years.
I mean,
What-
here's
what
the
did-
classic word: upside.
Yeah.
Upside potential. I mean, he's got the potential
Well,
to be
that's
a
exciting,
very
but-
solid hitter.
He's not gonna play every day unless Nixon gets hurt. And
Right
I
now-
only say unless Nixon gets hurt because he gets hurt enough.
That's a good point because Theo Epstein came on and said he hasn't had the chance to develop. Well, how's
You're
he
not giving him one either.
Well, how's he going to get one here? I mean, he's probably going to face lefties, which he tears
I
up.
still would. All in all, I think that Pena definitely could be potentially a better player than Arroyo as far as position
I mean,
for
he
position.
could be a steal if he turns out to be a great
Well,
hitter.
maybe.
Well, he's with Poppy, he's with Manny.
But I still kind of like a little bit of a downgrade in keeping a lesser player in Arroyo and having that flexibility pitching-wise. We all know that pitching wins games, and to add another pop in the bat, half a pop, because he's not going to be in the lineup all the time, seems kind of a little strange to me. With Manny and Ortiz in the lineup, why would you need to add another
I would
bat?
agree with you. I mean, Josh Beckett has looked pretty good so far. Kurt Schilling apparently is back. Is back, is pitching well. Matt Clement, who knows? Wakefield Wells and John Papelbon are the starters.
Papelbon's your out man. He's the one now that's probably going to get moved to the bullpen unless they get rid of Wells. So Wells is, he made amends and then he called Francona an idiot 3 days later. So who knows what's going on with that. But I don't know. We just now our flexible guy is Papelbon, and he's just too young to put in that role, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens.
I mean, we're not crazy about the trade. I guess we both agree on it. Like I said, I think he got a little bit of a raw deal. Some people disagree. Business is business. That's fine. Everybody wants to call it business is business. I'm just saying, the next time, especially a local athlete, wants the best contract he can get, people can say, oh, it's all about the money.
Right.
Well, yeah, it is. Here we have a guy who clearly
Right.
left money on the table because he was so worried about staying in the Red Sox.
Well, 1, 2, 3
know?
years from now, when it comes up and somebody leaves Boston to go take more money, you call me out on that.
Well, like
matter.
Ortiz. Ortiz is going to be up. He's going to get, the way he's hitting home runs, it's unbelievable. He's going to get some mega dollars.
How would
so,
Ortiz stay here? You know what I mean? I'm sure he loves it here.
Love
Anyway,
Big Poppy. Love it when I call him Big Poppy.
A little more Major League Baseball. Alfonso Soriano gets traded in the offseason from Texas to the Washington Nationals, okay? The guy, for some reason, is not made aware of the fact that he's not going to be playing second base because they have, actually, I think that's a Pena.
An all-star
Isn't that a Pena?
at second base.
Well, who's over at second? I forget who's over a second over there. We're all looking around hoping one of our producers know. Anyway.
Well, the door opened. The information
I
was
thought they
coming
had
in.
the answer right away. Anyway, they've already got an all-star young second baseman stud. They bring Soriano over and say, Soriano, you're playing the outfield. He wants nothing to do with the outfield, to the point now where he just played in his first preseason game for MLB because he was over in the World Baseball Classic, which, by the way, he went 0 for 12 in, and in the last game was a pinch hitter at this point. Okay, this is your four-time All-Star second baseman. He refuses to go to the outfield. The game starts. Here's how it went down. The game starts. The players take the field. Okay, the outfielders are looking to toss the ball around. There's nobody in left field.
Yeah, there's 8 guys.
Time's
that was
called.
the interesting part. Everybody's looking at the dugout.
Frank Robinson goes up to the ump. Next thing you know, center field is moving to left, and someone's coming from inside out to center field. Alfonso refused to play. Low down on this, and you guys will know about this before we will. But if he pulls off the same stint again by Thursday, they're gonna request from the commissioner a disqualification on his contract. It's a breach of contract.
And he can lose money.
He will not get paid, and he will not be released as a free agent. He will not be available as a free agent because they'll still own him. He'll sit at home and twiddle his thumbs.
I think it was going to move by Frank Robinson. He knew that before the game, so he said, listen, let's put the guys out there.
Yep.
Everybody saw it. Everybody saw him not go to left field. He came out and said, I'm switching.
There's a baseball veteran there. Now, Frank Robinson said if he hits the field on the next game, which I believe might be tonight, he forgives him. That's water under the bridge. I give credit to Frank Robinson because, man, this guy's been crying since before he went to the WBC. The big question is, well, first of all, will Soriano hit the outfield? He's going to lose too much if he doesn't. I would think he's going to hit the outfield, and he's going to try to get traded at this point.
Yeah, another athlete who's not happy.
This is like a TO version here, just not, it hasn't been blown out.
That's a perfect segue.
Yeah, how do you like that? Well, real quick, though, the second thing with Soriano, and I forgot what the heck I was going to say. Doesn't matter, I guess.
It
was probably a lie.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, what I was going to say was, was there a break in communication that Soriano didn't know he was going to the Nationals to play the outfield?
Well, he wanted to be traded. He probably didn't have a no-trade clause, so they sent him there. And
Idiot. Should have stayed in Texas. I'm ticked, of course, because I made a big trade to pick him up for my fantasy team.
That's what this is all about.
No, aside from that, this is a big deal. Anyway, let's move on. Terrell Owens, T.O.
Terrell Owens, for those of you, by the time you listen to the show, everybody will have known that he's now a Cowboy.
Ugh. And let me tell you, I got some Dallas Cowboy fans, and they ain't happy.
I'd love Cowboy fans to email us and let them know, because I remember that when he stomped on that star a few years ago, and thank God for George Teagle went out there and
the second time.
Knocked him off the start.
Took twice to do it. The second time
knocked him off the start the second time, which was a great thing. But, he just signed with Dallas. We're taping the show on Tuesday. He signed with Dallas officially on Monday. And lo and behold, he's got a book coming out in June talking about the Eagles, and it's going to be called An Eligible Receiver. But he just came up with a rap tune.
Joke.
I guess it was ready.
He's a joke.
And he just came out. And we have some, through our connections, of course.
An excerpt? I want you to rap this now. Do not just say it word for word. All right,
are you ready to go?
We only have a minute left. So.
You only have a minute left? Okay, here you go. We'll leave you with the T.O. rap.
Oh, this should be good.
Can you give me a little beat?
All right.
When it comes to this game, I'm the best on the field. Some said I was going to sign just a one-year deal. But I got what I wanted up front, 10 mil, changed the rules of the game. So now how do you feel? How about that?
That's pretty good.
I got a brand new team. I'm a Cowboy now. No more black and green. To the haters that said I'm not going to get my money, I'm laughing in your face. That's funny. And here's the last one. And this will probably be my best season by far. No more getting any eagle on. You can meet me at the Stars.
They're shutting off now.
T.O.
Amen, brother. You are the
Dallas,
rapper.
all I got to say, great talent. Good luck with T.O.
Unbelievable.
I think Parcells by the end of the year will
viewership
be
is
pulling
down
his
the
hair.
tube. It's a sports show at Yahoo.com.
That was a good version.
Thanks to Jen and Frenchie and whoever else.
And Dolphin G in the house.
Dolphin G in his house. I'm Scott Cray. Thanks for
Shizzle
watching.
dizzle.
Jeez.